They say that in the automotive industry, every mistake leaves a scar, and that behind every strange, controversial, or simply misunderstood car, there is a story no one dared to tell. Today, we're going to uncover those vehicles that honestly look like the result of a meeting that should have ended early, yet somehow still made it to the market. Yugo GV. The Yugo GV entered the market as an irresistible promise, a brand new car for the price of a used one, an economic revolution. And at first, it worked. Thousands bought it. Thousands believed in it. But the illusion didn't last long. Failures came quickly. Interiors wore out, components failed. Quality couldn't survive daily use. And the Yugo, the car that promised so much, became the symbol of you get what you pay for. Sales collapsed, and its name was etched into history as one of the most risky experiments the industry ever made.
Pontiac Aztek. There are cars that are born with a clear purpose, and yet end up writing a completely different destiny. The Pontiac Aztek is one of them. This vehicle was created to be the savior of an entire brand, an SUV ahead of its time. Bold, youthful, different. That was the vision. But along the way, something went wrong. When General Motors forced changes to its original design, when its proportions were altered, when its essence was lost, the Aztek became trapped between what it could have been and what it ultimately was. And although its practicality was surprising, although it was comfortable, spacious, and versatile, the world could never forgive its appearance. Sales collapsed, Pontiac's reputation crumbled, and years later, even company executives would admit that this model was one of the reasons behind its final downfall. The Aztek was born to save, but its legacy became a symbol of failure. Fiat Multipla. The Fiat Multipla is a paradox on wheels. A brilliant car on the inside, but misunderstood on the outside. Its design challenged every rule of aesthetics, a two-level front end, strange lines, a face that divided the world. But if you managed to look beyond that, you found an incredibly practical vehicle, seating for 6 people, impressive efficiency, and engineering that quietly outperformed its rivals. The problem is that people don't buy engineering, they buy emotion, and the emotion the Multipla evoked was confusion. Still, it remains a powerful reminder. Functional genius does not always win hearts. DeLorean DMC-12. The DeLorean was born from one man's dream and ended up trapped in the tragedy of that very dream. Its design was pure future, stainless steel, gull-wing doors, a silhouette that seemed to defy time. But its beauty hid a harsh reality: factory delays, inconsistent quality, an underpowered engine for a car that promised speed, assembly issues that damaged the experience. John DeLorean wanted to create a revolution. He wanted to change the industry, but his company never reached its own expectations, and the scandal that surrounded him sealed the story forever. The DMC-12 became an icon, but not for what it achieved, rather for what it lost. Chrysler PT Cruiser. The Chrysler PT Cruiser was born with the intention of reviving the American retro spirit, but it ended up trapped between its bone design and a market that never fully understood it. Its rounded, almost cartoonish silhouette looked like it came straight out of the 1930s, but without the elegance of a true classic. When it hit the streets, many saw it as a strange bet. Too strange. The first months saw an unexpected boost, almost like a passing trend, driven more by curiosity than genuine desire, but that spark faded quickly. Soon its real weaknesses became clear: slow engines, simple interiors, hard plastics, and driving dynamics that never matched other compacts of its era. Sales declined year after year, eventually becoming almost symbolic. Chrysler kept it alive longer than necessary, trying to squeeze out any remaining hope. But the reality was undeniable. The PT Cruiser had become a car that didn't belong anywhere. A vehicle that, in concept, sounded like a good idea, but in practice never found its identity.
Hummer H2. There was a moment in history when excess was a lifestyle. And in that moment, the Hummer H2 reigned as a titan. Gigantic, imposing, untamed. The H2 was not simply a vehicle, it was a statement. A symbol of power in an era where power was proudly displayed. Celebrities, athletes, business leaders, everyone wanted one. And for a time, the world bowed before it. But times change, and when fuel prices skyrocketed, when the crisis hit, when excess stopped being celebrated, the H2 became an enemy of the new order. Sales collapsed, its image became unsustainable, and the Hummer brand disappeared. The H2 didn't fall because of technical flaws. It fell because the world no longer had a place for a giant.
Cadillac Cimarron. The Cadillac Cimarron is perhaps the purest example of how a luxury brand can lose its way in a single move. Cadillac, a symbol of American greatness, decided to create a compact sedan to compete with European rivals. But instead of designing something from the ground up, it took a Chevrolet Cavalier, added a few cosmetic touches, and sold it as if it were a true Cadillac. The mistake was so severe that it is still studied in business schools today as a case of corporate arrogance. Buyers were not naive. They paid a premium price expecting premium quality, and what they received was a basic car disguised with gold badges. The press destroyed it mercilessly. Customers fled in droves, and sales were so poor that Cadillac avoided attempting anything similar for decades. The Cimarron remains in history as the car that nearly destroyed an entire brand's reputation. A brutal reminder that a name alone means nothing, and that some vehicles should never have existed.
Subaru Baja, the bold, strange, and completely unconventional gamble. Half pickup truck, half sedan, half adventure, and half confusion. It was a vehicle that didn't fit into any segment. Too small to compete with real pickups, too odd for traditional sedan buyers, and too ahead of its time for those who didn't yet understand what a crossover could be. Still, Subaru believed in it. It gave it all-wheel drive, bold styling, and that rebellious attitude the brand was known for. But the market didn't respond. Sales never came close to expectations, and the Baja disappeared after only a few years, with numbers so low it almost feels like a myth today. Ironically, with the resurgence of modern compact trucks, many now look back and realize something. The Baja was ahead of its time, a strange, misunderstood vehicle that tried to be everything at once and ended up being nothing for most people.